How to be silently attractive. Educate yourself on socially attractive habits. Imagine walking into a crowded room. Your eyes naturally scan the space, passing over the loudest talker, the person waving their hands, and the one desperately trying to command attention. Instead, your gaze locks onto someone sitting quietly in the corner, fully engaged in a conversation, radiating an inexplicable, effortless warmth. They aren't performing. They aren't trying to sell themselves. Yet they are undeniably the most magnetic presence in the room. Why are we drawn to the quiet ones? Most of what we are taught about social success is fundamentally flawed. We are told to speak up, to project, to dominate the conversation. But neuroscience and decades of behavioral research tell a completely different story. True social attraction doesn't happen in the vocal cords. It happens in the nervous system. It is a silent language. In the next few minutes, we are going to dissect the hidden architecture of human connection. You are going to discover why the brain's mirror neurons make loud, attention-seeking backfire, and how a few subtle shifts in your emotional self-regulation can make you instantly, magnetically attractive without saying a single word. If you have ever felt exhausted by the pressure to always be on, or if you want to know how to command a room through pure, calm presence rather than noise, you cannot afford to skip a single moment of what comes next. Let's look at the science of what it really means to be silently attractive. True attraction isn't loud, it's an emotional echo. Our brains are hardwired to mirror the emotional states of those around us, making quiet self-regulation incredibly magnetic. Social attractiveness isn't about being an amazing talker. It's about making others feel deeply heard. True listening requires managing our own internal monologue to fully attend to another person. Tuning into the subtle, nonverbal cues of others, microexpressions, tone shifts, allows you to respond with a precision that feels comforting and deeply attractive. Highly attractive people don't react impulsively. They utilize the critical gap between stimulus and response, showcasing immense self-mastery and emotional balance. Being silently attractive means possessing the emotional maturity to handle awkward silences or tense moments without desperate, people-pleasing behaviors. When we look at the mechanics of human connection, we often mistakenly believe that attraction is a product of what we say, how we dress, or the stories we tell. But beneath the surface of our conscious interactions lies a deeply rooted biological phenomenon known as limbic resonance. This is the capacity for sharing deep emotional states, stemming from the fact that the human brain is not a closed loop, but an open system. Unlike our circulatory or digestive systems, which are self-contained, our nervous systems are designed to be regulated by the open loops of the people around us. This means that our emotional stability, our sense of safety, and our internal chemistry are constantly being subtly adjusted by the presence of others. When you enter a room, an invisible, subterranean dialogue immediately begins between your nervous system and everyone else's. If you are anxious, frantic, or desperate for approval, your open loop broadcasts that internal turbulence. Conversely, when someone has achieved a state of deep emotional self-regulation, their internal environment is calm, steady, and anchored. This internal peace is not passive. It is an active, palpable force. Because our brains are hardwired for survival, we are evolutionarily drawn to centers of emotional stability. In a world that is frequently chaotic, unpredictable, and overwhelming, a person who can maintain psychological equilibrium becomes a sanctuary. The brain's mirror neurons automatically begin to synchronize with that person's calm, slowing down our own racing pulses and soothing our internal anxieties. This automatic synchronization is why true social attractiveness is so profoundly quiet. It requires absolutely no performance, no status-seeking behavior, and no loud declarations of worth. In fact, the moment someone actively tries to force an impression or dominate a room, they disrupt this delicate resonance, signaling an underlying insecurity that forces others to put up their emotional guards. The silently attractive individual understands that their primary social responsibility is not to entertain, but to regulate their own mind. By cultivating genuine self-awareness and mastering the art of emotional self-smoothing, they create a steady, inviting emotional frequency. People find themselves inexplicably drawn to this presence because it makes them feel safe, grounded, and emotionally at ease. You do not need to speak a single word to project this magnetic field. Your physiology, your steady breathing, your relaxed posture, and your unhurried gaze do all the heavy lifting for you, transforming your quiet self-mastery into the ultimate form of social currency. The second pillar of silent attraction rests entirely on the mastery of high EQ listening, a habit that is exceedingly rare in our modern, distraction-laden landscape. Most people view a conversation not as an opportunity to discover another person's world, but as a stage upon which to perform. While the other person is speaking, the average individual is not actually paying attention. Instead, they are engaged in a frantic internal rehearsal, meticulously crafting what they are going to say next, waiting for a breath, a pause, or a minor gap in the conversation to aggressively insert their own narrative. This self-centered approach to dialogue creates an invisible wall, signaling to the speaker that their thoughts are merely a hurdle to be cleared before the listener can regain the spotlight. The silently attractive individual rejects this transactional approach completely, choosing instead to manage their own internal monologue so they can grant the gift of their total, undivided attention. True listening is not a passive act of simply hearing words. It is an active, energetic commitment that requires immense emotional intelligence and self-regulation. To practice high EQ listening, you must intentionally quiet the frantic chatter of your own ego, setting aside your personal judgments, your immediate advice, and your desire to relate every story back to yourself. This creates a profound psychological space that allows the speaker to feel completely unhurried and truly safe. When you listen with this level of depth, your presence becomes intensely magnetic because you are fulfilling one of the deepest, most universal human cravings, the desire to be fundamentally seen and understood. The brain of the person speaking senses this safety, releasing neurotransmitters associated with trust and comfort, which binds them to you on a profound emotional level. Furthermore, this caliber of listening extends far beyond the literal translation of spoken vocabulary. It involves tuning your awareness to the intricate, non-verbal orchestration that accompanies human speech. The slight shift in vocal tone, the momentary hesitation before a specific word, the subtle dropping of the shoulders, or the micro-expressions that flicker across a face. By fully absorbing these quiet cues, you are able to comprehend the underlying emotional reality of what is being shared, rather than just the superficial facts. You don't need to speak volumes to demonstrate that you are engaged. Your stillness, your deep posture of focus, and your unhurried eye contact speak directly to the emotional brain of the speaker. In a world where everyone is shouting to be noticed, a person who can sit quietly and hold a deeply attentive, reflective space for another human being stands out as an extraordinary anomaly, drawing people toward them simply because their silence makes others feel uniquely valuable and profoundly understood. The third element of quiet magnetism centers on the cultivation of cognitive empathy, the precise, disciplined ability to read and understand the unspoken emotional landscape of another human being. In our daily interactions, human communication exists on two parallel tracks. The explicit verbal track, which deals with facts and logic, and the implicit emotional track, which transmits our deepest vulnerabilities, fears, and desires. While most people are completely consumed by the words being spoken, the highly attractive individual operates primarily on the emotional frequency. They understand that the face, the posture, and the voice are constantly broadcasting a wealth of data about a person's internal state. By tuning their awareness to these subtle, nonverbal signals, they can navigate social dynamics with an extraordinary level of precision and grace that requires absolutely no vocal self-promotion. This depth of empathy requires an immense amount of self-awareness, because to accurately read someone else, you must first quiet the emotional static inside your own mind. When you are fully present, you begin to notice the micro-expressions that the conscious mind tries desperately to hide. The quick tightening around the eyes that signals discomfort, the brief drop in tone that reveals an underlying sadness, or the subtle crossing of the arms that marks a boundary being crossed. Cognitive empathy allows you to process these details without judgment, giving you the unique ability to adapt your presence to exactly what the situation requires. It transforms you from a social competitor into a comforting ally. You are able to sense when a topic is too painful to pursue, when a joke has gone too far, or when someone is desperately wishing for an exit from an awkward conversation. When you possess this level of emotional attunement, your behavioral responses become incredibly precise. You don't need to engage in grand gestures or deliver sweeping speeches to show you care. Instead, your empathy manifests in small, quiet, and profoundly impactful ways. It is a subtle shift in your posture to make someone feel included, a gentle, understanding nod that validates an unspoken frustration, or the deliberate choice to step in and smoothly change the subject when you perceive that someone is feeling cornered. This level of emotional radar creates an immediate, subconscious bond with others. People instinctively feel that you are a safe harbor, someone who intuitively gets it without needing a detailed explanation. This silent attunement is one of the most sophisticated forms of social intelligence, allowing you to build an unshakable reputation for warmth and depth simply by honoring the unspoken realities of the people around you. The fourth hallmark of silent attraction lies in mastering what can be described as the grace of the pause, the profound ability to navigate the critical space between a stimulus and your ultimate response. In the standard architecture of everyday human socializing, there is an immense, almost frantic pressure to react instantaneously to every piece of incoming information. When someone challenges our opinions, offers an unexpected criticism, or creates a moment of tension, our primitive, survival-driven brain wants to fire back immediately. This instinctual drive manifests as defensive interruptions, sharp retorts, or immediate emotional displays designed to protect the ego. This reactive behavior, while common, signals a distinct lack of internal control and a vulnerability to external manipulation. The silently attractive individual, however, rejects this frantic script entirely, choosing instead to claim ownership over that brief, silent window of time before they offer any reaction at all. This intentional pause is a masterclass in emotional self-regulation and psychological maturity. Taking 2 or 3 seconds to simply absorb, breathe, and process an interaction before responding signals an immense reservoir of internal security and power. It demonstrates to everyone in the room that your emotional state is not dictated by the whims, provocations, or chaotic energy of those around you. Instead of being an emotional weather vane that spins wildly with every shifting breeze, you become an anchor. This silent containment acts as a psychological buffer, giving your higher-order cognitive faculties the time they need to override impulsive, ego-driven reactions and formulate a response rooted in wisdom and composure. When you refuse to match aggression with immediate counter-aggression, or awkwardness with immediate panic, you completely disrupt the predictable rhythm of conflict, commanding a subtle, undeniable authority over the dynamic. Furthermore, this deliberate deceleration of your social pace carries an incredibly magnetic weight. When you don't rush to fill the silence or defend your character, your stillness projects a quiet invulnerability that cannot be bought or faked. It tells the other person that you are secure enough in your own worth to hear their words without feeling personally shattered or threatened. This pocket of silence forces the people around you to slow down as well, effectively de-escalating tension and creating a safer, more deliberate environment for genuine connection. People are naturally drawn to this unshakable composure because it is a rare and comforting contrast to a culture of constant noise and impulsive outrage. By choosing to step into the quiet sanctuary of the pause, you transform potential friction into an opportunity for deep, measured, and highly sophisticated leadership, proving that the ultimate display of personal strength is not how loudly you can strike back, but how beautifully you can contain yourself. The fifth and final attribute of silent attraction is a profound, unshakable comfort with discomfort, particularly when it manifests as silence or social tension. In ordinary social interactions, the average person treats a lull in conversation as an acute psychological emergency. The moment the dialogue slows down and an unexpected quiet settles over the room, an underlying current of anxiety tends to ripple through the group. To alleviate this internal panic, individuals will desperately scramble to fill the void, resorting to nervous chatter, superficial compliments, forced jokes, or rapid-fire questions that serve no purpose other than to mask their own insecurity. This anxious energy is immediately palpable to the emotional brain of everyone present, signaling a fragile ego that requires constant external validation and structural reassurance just to remain steady. The silently attractive individual, by contrast, views these moments of quiet not as an awkward failure, but as a natural, healthy rhythm of human connection. Possessing the emotional maturity to sit comfortably in a silent moment requires a high degree of self-awareness and internal security. When you are anchored in your own self-worth, you lose the desperate urge to constantly manage, manipulate, or perform for the energy of the room. You do not view a pause in speech as a threat to your social standing, nor do you feel responsible for constantly entertaining those around you. Instead, you hold the silence with a calm, relaxed posture and an unhurried, gentle gaze. This lack of desperation communicates a rare level of psychological confidence that is intensely magnetic. It signals to others that you are entirely at peace within your own skin, and that your presence does not come with the heavy tax of constant emotional maintenance. Your stillness effectively gives the people around you permission to drop their own social masks and relax into a more authentic, grounded state of being. Furthermore, this tolerance for discomfort extends to moments of social friction, disagreement, or emotional intensity. When a conversation becomes tense or an awkward truth is brought to light, the socially insecure person will often move quickly to smooth things over, backpedal on their boundaries, or engage in people-pleasing behaviors to restore superficial harmony. The silently attractive person has the emotional stamina to allow the discomfort to exist without rushing to fix it. They can stand firm in their boundaries or navigate a difficult truth with a quiet, dignified composure. This ability to tolerate emotional heat without reacting impulsively or retreating in panic demonstrates a profound level of self-mastery. It transforms you into a psychological anchor, someone who can navigate the complex, often messy realities of human relationships without being knocked off balance by temporary waves of social awkwardness or emotional turbulence.